Welcome back to the In the Blues Tone podcast. My name's Shane. In today's video and podcast, I'm going to talk about some of the best guitar shops I've visited anywhere in the world. I've got a list. I'm going to go through and show you some actual footage from the stores. Now, if you're unfamiliar with my channel, if you're watching it for the first time or you don't know about my Guitar Search Saturday series, it's a series where I visit guitar shops locally, overseas, or anywhere that I get to travel. If there's a cool guitar shop, I like to visit it. Anyway, we're going to get into it with this list. Let us know in the comment section what your favorite guitar shops are, and if you have some suggestions for future episodes, let us know. I've actually taken a few of those suggestions on board for this mid-year thing if it goes all ahead, so thank you again. We'll kick things off by talking about some of the larger scale stores to begin with and stuff that kind of just blew my mind in terms of its enormity and uniqueness. And then we'll get into some of the smaller stores, which are still fantastic, obviously, but they just don't have some of the things that these first few have. But they're amazing stores all on the list. So if you live near any of these, consider yourself lucky. The first store I have to mention was one I wanted to visit for years. I actually lost a trip back in 2020 to go there, and it ended up happening in 2022. And this is Walt Grace Vintage in Wynwood, which is a suburb just out of Miami, Florida. And wow, what a place. This is a guitar gallery and a vintage car gallery. So it combines both electric and acoustic guitars and all that kind of stuff, amps and everything you would assume a guitar shop would have. And then it's got some of the most epic vintage cars you're ever going to find. While I'm no car aficionado, I can tell you that walking through a massive showroom full of old school Porsche, Ferraris, and Rod Stewart's Lamborghini was one of the most impressive things I've seen anywhere. The Lambo was crazy, man. It had like the most reflective surface I've ever seen on anything other than a mirror. It was crazy. It was like bouncing light all over the place. And it just arrived there the day before we actually got to the store. I did a really nice interview with Bill, the owner, and he talks me through his story about how he got into it. He basically was dissatisfied with his regular job. He was in advertising, and one day he heard a song on the radio, which basically encouraged him to go into business for himself. He wanted to just give it a shot and see how he went, and it's changed his life, and it's definitely one of the most impressive stories and stores I've been to anywhere in the world. So yeah, it's a great video. If you missed it, I'll link it up here and you can check it out. I mean, just the vibe of the place is really something else. Last year I went to Texas twice. That's right. And the second time we went there, we filmed a whole bunch of shows, including the one that I'm about to talk about right now. So odds are you may have already seen this video, but if you haven't, I highly encourage you to go check it out. This is probably visually the most impressive guitar store on the list. It's absolutely stunning. And this is the Guitar Sanctuary in McKinney, Texas. Now, the whole vibe of the area, which is called Adriatica, has a old Polish village aesthetic. So you're getting cobblestones, you're getting nice little lakefront thing there. There's like a lake with beautiful cobblestones, little old school bridges. There's a church, some towers. It's unlike anywhere I've seen anywhere in Australia, which is great. It's also unlike anywhere that I've seen in the US, at least on my limited travels to different areas. But yeah, so before you even get in the shop, the whole experience is just very different. You drive into it, and it's like, wow, this is completely different. You know how all shops kind of look the same? Starbucks was like a cobblestone building. So it's got a very different vibe. But anyway, we get to the store, and it looks cool on the outside, but it also looks a little unassuming. It kind of has a little bit of a castle vibe going on. You walk in and it's unbelievable. Again, like the whole area that's surrounding the store, everything that's in the store it's all good stuff. There's no junk. They don't stock stuff just because it's cheap. They stock stuff they really want to showcase. And it is a guitar store. It's a straight up guitar store in many ways, but it also gives you the feeling of being somewhere completely unlike anywhere else. So the internal design is just as impressive as the Adriatica area. So it's got that going for it. It kind of gives you old medieval kind of vibes on the inside. And that will or won't be for everybody, but I loved it. I thought it was just unbelievable. There's a couple of different floors of just fantastic guitars. The amp room had the smartest switching system I've ever seen. So you could go in and flick switches and change amps without having to keep plugging into everything. It's just a really great way of having something very functional for people who want to A/B things. So that was great. The Guitar Sanctuary just stocks new stuff, but it's, again, all super high-end stuff. So if you're looking for Sir, Fender Custom Shop, no Gibson, funnily enough, but some of the best PRS guitars I've ever seen. They work directly with Bob Taylor and Taylor Guitars to come up with their own unique acoustic guitars for the store. Brian was our tour guide at the Guitar Sanctuary, and he showed us around all the different areas in the shop, downstairs, upstairs, and then he took us through the back into the stage area, which, again, this is what sets this place apart from anywhere else. This is probably the most visually impressive store I've ever been into anywhere in the world. It's really impressive. It's got its own unique thing going on. Having a live stage, or a massive stage with a proper sound system and live streaming capabilities and multiple cameras and all that kind of stuff is unreal. There's, events that go on there. They'll have local guitar legends rock up and put on clinics and shows and all that kind of thing. So it's a really different experience, which is why it landed a place on this list. I also got to chat to George, the owner, who's involved in the Dallas Guitar Show, and he does a lot of stuff in the area. He was mayor once upon a time there as well, which is cool. But he was also the designer of the store and the surrounding area. So he's done a lot of stuff. But yeah, it was just a really unique experience. And while everything in there is basically high-end, minus a few guitars and maybe an amp or two, it's definitely worth going into. It's an experience unlike anywhere else. And while that video, I think, hit around 100,000 views or so, it was funny how many people said, man, I live right near there and I never knew of it. So if you missed that video, I'm going to link all these in the description, because this particular one was one of the stars of the show. It really, surprised us to no end when we walked in. We were just like, wow, this looks better than the photos on the website. Yeah, so check it out. Up next is one of my favorite used guitar stores I've ever been to anywhere in the world. And again, it's in Texas. So everything is bigger in Texas. We'll get to some other locations in just a moment. But this particular place, Rockin' Robin Guitars, was unbelievable. They got a big "We Buy Guitars" sign out the front. They got a couple of flags, the US flag and the Texas flag. And you look at the side of the building, there's a mural of Stevie Ray Vaughan and Freddie King, two Texans. So it was great to see that kind of, pride in the local musicians and, some of the legendary artists. I really like seeing that stuff, and it was refreshing. So that was great. Secondly, you walk in, and the enormity of guitars is off the charts. There's nowhere else I've ever seen like this. Now, I'm sure there's other places that are similar, but until you experience walking into Rockin' Robin Guitars, you really don't know what you're missing. It's phenomenal. Now, they've arguably got the best collection of signed electric guitars from like B.B. King, Eric Clapton, Billy Gibbons, Robin Ford, everybody. They had everybody sign guitars, and some of them that you see as soon as you walk in are just for display. There's also stuff hanging from the rafters, which is also just for display. But yeah, they also, I think, had Lightning Hopkins acoustic guitar in there, like the actual one, not like a reissue or anything. So they had the Wayne's World guitar on display and just a whole bunch of great stuff. And I love walking into stores like this because you can go in there 1 month, wait a little while, go in again a month later, and everything's different. And this is a lot more fulfilling for me personally, going to used guitar stores. I could shoot the same show again, and the next time I go in there, it'd be completely different. And it was just amazing to see how much stuff they had in this particular store. The staff are lovely. They've just got some really amazing amps and pieces from all different prices. So if you're looking for a budget guitar, they've got them. They had some really beautiful acoustics that I'd never heard of in this little middle acoustic room. Then you could go into the back and find like vintage Gibson acoustic guitars. So they really had everything. And yeah, it's like, where do you start when you film those kind of videos? So I shot that video a little bit differently, and it also helped me learn how to shoot in that exact scenario moving forward. But I wanted to do it more like a vlog because it kind of allowed me to showcase a little bit more about how it felt being there. And that video's clicked over a couple of 100,000 views already. So thank you so much for everyone who's watched it. Yeah, it's definitely a favorite of a lot of people who visit Texas, and I now know why. And if you live near there, you're very, very lucky. So yeah, it's a great store. No list of guitar shops like this would be complete without talking about Jerry's Lefty Guitars. Now, I got a chance to go to the Sarasota shop that Jerry has probably 3, maybe 4 times over the last 10 years or so. And he was nice enough to let me in, let me film. He trusted me with the keys, and I just put together a whole bunch of demos because I thought, why not? I was over there. I thought I might as well go down and ask him if he's interested in some videos. So it was great. We've sort of had a good friendship since. And I've been back several times. Now, the last time I was there was in 2022, right before he moved or started his move to Spencer, Tennessee, which I haven't been to yet. But going to his original store was definitely one of the highlights for me in my, guitar shop visiting journey. It was so different. It was on like horse ranch country. It was in Sarasota, but it was out sort of, in the farmland sort of area. And he converted an old stable into his store, had power and internet and all that kind of stuff, and hundreds of Lefty guitars. It was unbelievable. As a Lefty, never having walked into a store where I could play every guitar on the wall absolutely broke my brain. It was unlike anything else for me personally. And if you're looking at this as a righty going, man, this hurts my head looking at all these Lefties, welcome to our world going anywhere else. Usually I walk into a store, I can't play 90% of the guitars. They're all righties. So having a store where there's 100% Lefties is phenomenal. Everyone always asks, how come there's no righties? You can find them anywhere. So he gets them made specifically for his store. There's stuff there I won't find anywhere else. And it's an amazing experience being in this sort of farming area, because we saw armadillos and deer and all kinds of stuff walking around, these huge birds, and it was beautiful. So it was unlike any other store I've been to anywhere. And again, it's like you drive through the back cave to get to the store. It was, over this little wooden bridge with trees sort of, encompassing it and all that kind of thing. And yeah, it was just a really great experience. I can't wait to see what he's actually done with the new shop. I haven't been there, but I hope to get there at some point. But Jerry's Lefty Guitars in Sarasota was definitely one of the highlights for me doing this particular series. Melbourne, Australia, where I live, has so many great guitar stores. There's got to be 30 or so. I'm going to talk about a few that really stand out in my experience, starting with Found Sound, which is now in Brunswick in Melbourne, Australia. And this store is unbelievable. You might remember a couple of years ago, if you're already subscribed, that I picked up a new PV Classic 50. I put a video about that together. I purchased that amp at that shop when I did that walkthrough video. It was unbelievable. They just had everything I could have wanted to test on hand. And this is a consignment store, so most of what they've got is used. They do have some new amps like Supro and some new Fender stuff and all that, but the majority of what's in there is used equipment. And not only can you get a bargain, but you're going to find stuff in there that you won't be able to get new anymore. I remember when I went to get that PV Classic 50, there were 3 amplifiers I was dying to test and try and compare, and I was able to do that all in that one shop. They've got a dedicated practice room, so you can crank things up and people aren't going to complain, which is great. They must have had probably 100 amps in there the day I went in there, and hundreds of electric and acoustic guitars. They just had so much stuff. There's a big wall of electrics. My only critique with the store is that it's sometimes a bit hard to see what's on the top row of guitars. But yeah, their website's great. They keep it up to date. I've bought speakers from them since doing that particular video. I bought my Eminence Texas heat speaker from them. And yeah, the amp, is phenomenal. So you can pick up stuff that you're just not going to find in, your everyday store. I think what kind of makes this place so impressive is just the scale of it. It's like a massive warehouse. It looks beautiful when you walk in. There's lots of natural light, which can't be said for a lot of other stores that do a similar thing. They're all sort of dark and dingy. They've got sticky carpets and all that kind of stuff. But this one isn't the case at all. It's really cool. The staff let me do whatever I wanted in the shop, which was great. So I filmed a Guitar Search Saturdays episode and a new Amp Day video. And it was just a really great experience. It's a website I'm always checking out because they do get quite a lot of Lefties in there. And also, just amps, again, that people want to sell, and occasionally you can score yourself a really great bargain. So yeah, Found Sound, definitely one of the most fun shops, in the inner city suburbs for sure. This next store had to make the list, and if you're into used gear, again, it's a no-brainer. And this is one of the best shops you're going to find in Queensland, or at least in Brisbane, Queensland, where we went. This is called Southside Guitars. It's technically in Salisbury, but it's an amazing store. It's a little unassuming from the outside. It looks like a green sort of painted shed, but man, you walk in and it had so much stuff. It was unbelievable. This was one of those times where they had like a treasure trove of stuff. They had a dedicated Lefty section. I got to test out so many nice guitars. I got to test out a Gretsch Electromatic in a Lefty. It was this sunburst color. And it did my head in. It sounded so nice. It played great. It was at a good price. I thought, I might do it when I get home. Anyway, I edited the video, posted it, and then that guitar sold. So it didn't sell to me, unfortunately, but yeah, it was a bit of a shame. I should have probably picked that one up. It was a beautiful guitar. But they have all kinds of great stuff. If you're into old school Japanese electric guitars, you're going to find them there. If you're into, you know, sort of old school vintage stuff that's really high end, they've also got that kind of collection. So there's a bit in there for everybody. But I think the star of the show was the enormity of amplifiers and amp heads and all that kind of stuff. And they had everything from the classics, the PV Bandits, the teal stripe, the silver stripe, the red stripe. At that particular time, they had the Fender Mustang amps and all that kind of stuff, the ones that I actually like the older ones, all the way through to, you know, Marshalls and Engels and all kinds of stuff. And this is the beauty, again, of these stores where they don't just stock the brands and the new current stuff. You're able to find stuff that you won't be able to get just walking into your traditional guitar store. And Southside Guitars is as good as Found Sound in Melbourne, Australia. It's a different store, different experience visually, but they've got as much stuff in there in kind of like a smaller quarters than Found Sound, but it's easily as good. If you live in Brisbane and you haven't been to Southside Guitars, do yourself a favor, check it out. They're a bunch of great guys and gals that work in there, and they just have some really beautiful stuff. About 8 or 9 years ago, I got to go to Denmark and Sweden, and while we were in Denmark, there were several guitar stores that blew my mind at the time, and they're still some of the most impressive in the series. Now, the format of video has changed drastically. Back then, it was all sort of like first-person perspective with me behind the camera most of the time. But one of the ones that really stood out, and I'd love to go back, is Woodstock Guitars. This is in Denmark. It's absolutely beautiful. They've got, again, the best used collection of guitars you're going to find probably in that area. It's unbelievable. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of acoustic guitars and hundreds of electrics, basses. They've got everything. It's unbelievable. I think what sort of is burned into my memory about this store is the fact they had like a bison head or something on the wall, and they had some really eclectic kind of like art pieces in the store, but just the range of stuff was crazy. They've got a great amp room there, so if you want to test anything out, you can grab it off the wall or have someone help you with it and then plug it in and make some noise. They had some really cool amps, and we got to test out a whole lot of stuff while we were there. They had lefties, they had righties, and being that they're mostly used guitar store like some of the others on this list, that's the beauty of it. You go in 1 week to the next and there's going to be different stuff in there. This is the kind of store that if you are into high-end vintage guitars, you're probably well aware of it. But they also stock Japanese guitars, you know, stuff like Fernandez, and they had some Tokai guitars in there and just other brands you're not going to find, you know, in a regular guitar store, for example. So for me, this was an absolute treat to see. And again, it's sort of like the mid to high end part of the market. But if you are into that, of course, you're going to find some great stuff. A lot of it was out of my price range, but I could really appreciate just being able to pick some lefties up off the wall and having a play, and shooting that video was a whole lot of fun. So Woodstock Guitars is right up there as one of the best stores I've ever been to. Maybe the most unassuming store I've ever seen from the outside is Pro Music Tools in Munich, Germany. Now, Dr. Rick and I went there many years ago now, 2018 I think it was, and we drove past it like 3 times. We're like, where's this store? The maps are telling us it's there. We're like looking out our window trying to work out where the store was. There was no signage. You just had to know it was there. Anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. So we parked, we went in, and man, oh man, they had just the craziest collection of stuff. And this is all new gear as well. They had the largest collection of Fujigen guitars I've seen anywhere in the world. And they actually had the largest collection of Music Man electrics. So if you're into the Music Man electrics or the Ernie Balls, you're going to get a kick out of this place. You walk in, the top floor has a lot of the Japanese electrics and some of the more standard stuff you'd find like Ibanez and all that. You go downstairs and there's this separate room which is absolutely stunning, just full of great electric guitars and basses and PRS guitars and all kinds of beautiful amplifiers. And Dr. Rick was there, so I filmed him playing a whole bunch of stuff, and man, the tones were just absolutely beautiful. I still think Music Man guitars are extremely underrated. But you buy them, you can't resell them. You're going to take a huge hit, and I think that's, you know, the unfortunate truth of those guitars. It doesn't take away from their quality, but it is what it is. Anyway, tangent aside, the thing I loved about this place was just obviously they had just way more guitars than I ever first thought they'd have in there. The owner was lovely. He was really welcoming. And the downstairs section, if you're into Music Man or PRS, man, they just had so much great stuff. So this definitely gets a tick on the list here, or it gets added to this list because of its uniqueness, but also because it was arguably the most unassuming experience from the outside. I just thought, man, why are we here? And then we went in, it was like, that's why we came here. It's unbelievable. They had probably 1,000 guitars in the entire shop. One of my favorite places to visit, without question, is Hawaii. I love it. I could move there tomorrow and I'd be very happy. It's a great spot. But anyway, one of the great guitar stores that's very unassuming on the outside but has plenty of great inventory on the inside is Good Guys Music and Sound. This place was unbelievable. Now, this video didn't get a lot of views. It got about 10,000 views and I posted it quite some time ago. But it's worth checking out. I'm not just saying that. I think it's just one of the best, most unassuming, small, front-facing shops you're going to walk into. But when you walk in, it's just full of everything. This was the first time I got to see Tajima guitars firsthand, or Tajima as some people pronounce it. And yeah, they're really great quality. I was actually quite surprised just how nice they were given their price. Thing I noticed compared to where I live in particular, even in other parts of the US, even though most things in Hawaii are more expensive, this store, the prices were great. I was really shocked. You could pick up an old PV solid state amp for like $150 or $90, I think I saw one for. They had the Fender Supersonic 60 amps. They had, used guitars from everyone. Plenty of great Fender, Japanese electric guitars as well. They also had some really cool acoustic guitars in a different section of the store. Godin electrics or those hybrid guitars. They just had so much nice stuff. And it's funny when you walk into a shop and there's rows of amps as soon as you walk in. That's my kind of shop. If you've ever been to Good Guys Music and Sound, let us know what you think. It's definitely one of the standouts on the island there. It's, in the city of sort of Waikiki, Honolulu kind of thing. And yeah, it's definitely worth the visit if you're in the market to pick up a bargain. To me, this was like your everyday working musician's music store. If you're looking for an amp that's not going to break the bank, or you want something loud enough to cut the mix without spending a fortune, this is definitely the way to go. I was very impressed. They had some older Fender, at the time anyway, some older Fender Twins and Super Reverbs. And I was like, it's like half the price I would pay back home. And it's just, the sad reality of it sometimes. But yeah, it's a really great store. Check it out if you're ever in Hawaii. Good Guys Music and Sound definitely made the list. Before going to Hawaii for the first time, one of the guitar stores that kept coming up in conversation about Hawaii was, you got to go to Dan's Guitars. You got to go to Dan's Guitars. So we went to Dan's Guitars and it's unreal. Again, this is right up my alley. Lots of used equipment, mostly used equipment, just everything. They had guitars filling up every nook and cranny, everything from Epiphone to custom built stuff to LSL guitars, and they had the Fender guitars that we all know and love, Telecasters, and just the best range of used amps you're going to find anywhere. They even had one of my favorite amps of all time, the Music Man RD50. Just unbelievable to find this stuff in a store like that. And again, it's way more affordable than I'd be able to find back home. It's just a shame that the power isn't the same in Australia compared to the US. With 240 volts here, 110 over there. So, running converters and all that kind of stuff kind of sucks. Or step down transformers, to be technical. But Dan's Guitars is unbelievable. If you ever check their website, you know what I'm talking about. They've just got great vintage guitars in both left and right-handed. I got to play, I think it was a 70s tally, like an early 70s one, or maybe earlier. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but I just remember going into each section of that store being ridiculously impressed with the amount of stuff that they had and also the quality of the stuff that was in the store. It was unbelievable. So yeah, man, Dan's Guitars had just about everything. The guys were so nice. They bought us some local made snacks for, just to see what we thought of them and all that kind of stuff, and some Hawaii, soft drinks, and it was a whole lot of fun. But man, Dan's Guitars has so much great stuff. If you're a guitarist, you can't not visit Dan's Guitars if you go to Hawaii. Make the trip out there. This is probably the most impressive store that I've seen in Hawaii. There's lots of really nice ones, but yeah, I think between Good Guys, which is that small kind of more beginner or budget friendly option, all the way to Dan's Guitars, which does do some more affordable stuff, but they kind of excel with the mid to high end section of the market, then you'll get a kick out of it. It really is beautiful. The last shop I'm going to end with is one that really impressed me for a few different reasons, and this is South Austin Music in Austin, Texas. This is one of the longest running guitar stores in the city there. It's a family-owned business. The Welker family are lovely. If you're ever in that area, go check it out. It's on Lamar Street, I think it's called, and phenomenal range of gear. They've got, again, everything in there. If you're a guitarist or bassist, they got just so much great stuff. There's a few things that blew my mind. The amount of really great amplifiers, everything from like the Fender Princeton, Vox stuff, all that kind of thing, all the way through to two-rock amplifiers and those eclectic little Excelsior amps and the Pawn Shop series. I'll say it like that so it doesn't come out wrong on the captions. But yeah, you could find like just everything. They had so much unique gear there. Plenty of lefties, plenty of unique lefties, as well as bass guitars and some really high-end vintage stuff. They had an old school, I think, 100-year-old Gibson acoustic guitar, just beautiful pieces. I think another thing that I remember when I was in there, in Australia we have obviously our own bands and music, but what really made me smile was this little kid playing ZZ Top, and I thought to myself, that's something I'd hear back home, people doing ZZ Top, and I was thinking that's local, that's Texan music, or American Texan music, or however you want to say it. And it was great to see kids sort of still rocking out, like little kids, rocking out to their tunes. And I thought, man, how cool is that? What a great vibe. This has got to be one of the best, again, working man musicians shops you go and find anywhere. They really take care of their customers. Just a bunch of lovely dudes. And so many people came in and said hi. They recognized me from the show and from the YouTube channel, all that kind of thing. And the vibe from outside, this is what I love about it. There's a big guitar on top of their roof out the front. But then one of their big poles where they've got the sign at the top, they've painted the bricks into an amplifier. And I'll put some of that on screen so you can check it out. But yeah, man, what an awesome experience. South Austin Music, definitely one of my favorites. I was going to wear that t-shirt in today's video as well, but instead I got this one on. But yeah, great bunch of dudes. Go check them out. All right, let's wrap this up. So I could have put so many guitar shops into this list. The beauty of this series is I get to visit great guitar shop after great guitar shop, and this list was just how I was feeling as of putting this particular video together. I recently went to the Guitar Colonel. That could have made the list. It was a great shop. I could have easily have put the Guitar Attic in Florida there, Music Go Round in Bradenton, or any of the other great music shops like Sky Music, where I borrow a lot of stuff. It's still world class in terms of retail stores, but I want to showcase just some of the stuff that's a little bit different in different areas. Odds are if you're subscribed, you would have seen Sky Music plenty, so I thought I would just showcase a few others. It's going to be a cool year. I'm going to have more episodes coming up, so if you do enjoy what I do, don't forget to subscribe, click the bell on YouTube, set all notifications. All that stuff really helps, and it makes sure that you don't miss one of these episodes. So thank you again. Let us know your favorite guitar shop, and I always take them on board because I've already taken a few on board for hopefully if things go to plan later in the year. Anyway, thank you again. Catch you soon. See ya.